faith and know that the reality is kids have to grow up. They have to grow up, and rather they... Is this thing on? No. Now it is. Wait, it is red. Sure, I don't be knowing. We just gonna say it's on because it's red. Hey guys, welcome back to the Just Healing Podcast. So we're making some changes around here. I know I love to do my healing with feelings and my healing hacks. However, I think I want to make those separate small episodes just so I can ensure that I am keeping everyone engaged on what they're interested in when they're coming to this podcast. So if you're more interested in, like a healing with feelings or healing hacks, then you could just listen to those episodes. And if you want to listen to more of my pop culture, how I relate, then you can listen to those episodes. I just want to start getting just more variety out there and really just honestly getting straight to the point. So let's do that. All right. So as you guys may or may not know, it seems, or maybe it's just to me, maybe it's because I'm going through it, and so it's kind of like a high level, or I'm just noticing it more. But it seems to me that everyone is getting a divorce, and the content in the divorces are just really coming out. And as someone who also is going through a divorce, especially with children, I just wanted to touch on just some things that I've noticed that is just so interesting, and just kind of goes to show that just because you have money or don't, because I don't, not as much as, celebrities obviously, but just because you have money or don't, it's so interesting to me how, especially when like kids are involved, a divorce is going to look like a divorce, no matter how much you try to make it look different. Oh no. Okay, so if you're watching, you've seen that. Oh, come on. This is the goofy stuff. So let me just keep talking for the audio people. This is so goofy. All I was trying to do was stretch out. Y'all, this is why I really be needing a team. Doing this on my own is just not the business. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. All right, so back to what I was trying to do is just stretch this out a little bit more. That's all I was trying to do, just stretch this out a little bit more. All right. So yeah, as I was saying, I just feel it's so heavy, like in my algorithm. I'm just seeing all these people getting a divorce. I'm just seeing all these people, fight over their kids, blah, 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 which brought me to, I'm gonna just say my least favorite of the divorcing people, and how I'm just like, wow, it really doesn't matter if you have money. It doesn't matter what your status is. When you're getting a divorce, and when you have a baby daddy, especially them father of them kids, sometimes it is the most ghetto thing you can find yourself in the world. Like, if somebody was to say right now, I will give you $5 million if you tell me what off the top of your head, what is the most ghetto thing you have done in your life, it would absolutely be to be a single mom. It is not for the faint of hearts. And especially when you're dealing with someone that is difficult, which, I'm just speaking over my situation, that even if that individual remains difficult, the situation won't be difficult, if that makes sense. I am speaking over God flipping this around, God turning this around, and ultimately God working this in the best interest of my children, because honestly, that's all I care about. But obviously, we have been seeing that Kim and Kanye have been going through a divorce for some time now, like years at this point. And recently, he released some text messages. He released them too. That was so interesting to me. So he released some text messages, and the content around the text messages was that Kanye wanted Northwest, which is their oldest child, to be on a song with Diddy. As we all know, Diddy is in jail. Pretty sure one of the charges is literally human trafficking. And just like a narcissist, you know, Kanye is calling the Kardashians human traffickers. Personally, I don't know what they are. None of us do. You know what I mean? Like, we're not that close into their lives. We don't know what they are. However, it's just so interesting to me that you want your child to be a part of, you know, someone's music who is quite literally in jail for being a human trafficker. But you're accusing the mom's, you're not even the mom's family. You're literally accusing your child's mom of being a human trafficker. That is so crazy to me. But it is literally, y'all, I just want y'all to know, when they say all narcissists go by the same playbook, like, there's no exaggeration around that. Like, they quite literally all have the same playbook. They quite literally all think the same way. They, like, it's just, it's inevitable. It's inevitable for them not to. So I just want to take it back to even the earlier kind of days of, you know, the divorce and the custody, and just speak on a couple of things. Number one, I find it extremely interesting how it seems like, you know, from the outside looking in, what he shows us, it seems to me like Kanye really only cares about North. And I don't know what his reasoning is, but if I had to take a guess, one of my biggest guesses would be that North is the oldest. And since she's the oldest, North is the easiest to manipulate. North is, you know, the child that he spent the most time with. I feel like sometimes with narcissists, with their older child, that child just really holds a special place in their heart because they're the first child that gave them validation. They're the reason that they were able to say, oh, look at me, I'm this amazing dad, I'm so amazing, because that child was born first. Usually, since that child was born first, that child has a closer relationship because, you know, that child typically comes before the second child, obviously. But by the time that second child comes, the discard is there. You know, usually a narcissist will even act like they don't want a second child. Or if they do want a second child, they'll, you know, say they do. And then ultimately, when you have it, it'll be your fault that you had this second child. And they just don't have the same level of love that they do for the first child. So to me, Kanye has a very obvious favoritism towards North. And like I said, I think it's because she's the oldest child. She's easier to manipulate. She's easier to kind of like coach her into saying some things that, you know, the younger kids may not say, because they're also still really dependent on their mom because they're so young. But it is really surprising to me that Saint doesn't have that same, you know, kind of like level. Because I don't think he's that much younger than North. But like I said, I think it's just a first child thing. I think you can be 1 year younger and that first child is still going to hold that piece of a narcissist, because that is the first child that made them feel validated. That's that first child that made them feel loved. And most of the time, narcissists don't feel loved. I think with Kanye, the difference is that, you know, from his mom, he did feel loved, but from no one else. And I think that's why when she passed away, unfortunately, he didn't know who else to feel that love from. So, you know, he started trying to feel it from women, of course, but ultimately, I don't think anyone could have filled that void for him. And then North was born. I don't know if you guys remember, it was it honestly may have been like a year or two ago now, but I just remember Kanye had North, maybe it was like I don't know if it was like, it was something music related. And he had came out and said, you know, North, it actually was more than 2 years ago. It may have been like 3 years ago. But he had came out and said something along the lines of like, you know, North says she doesn't even like being with her mom. This is where narcissists will make co-parenting absolutely hell for you as a mom who ultimately is just trying to raise your kids. Before I say what I want to say about him and North, no, I'm gonna say that part first actually. So yeah, he came out and said, you know, North said she likes being with me more, she has more fun with me. I think he had said something along the lines of like, when it was time for North to go home, she like called Kim and was like yelling and crying like, I don't want to come home to you. And I remember at that time I was like, no, like that sounds impossible. Like I could never imagine, you know, my kid calling me being like, I don't want to come home to you. Let me tell you guys something that most people don't talk about enough. I've actually, and I mean, I haven't been obviously in this game for a long time, but I have really never heard the point of view, and I feel like it's not talked about enough. And if I need to be the one to talk about it, I will. But I have not heard the point of view enough of the mom who got away, and that mom that got away. So, you know, in a kid's mind, they don't know who initiated the divorce, but they do know obviously who moved out, you know, who left. And it's not talked about enough of the, it's not guilt. It's not guilt. It's more of just like the pain that we have to ignore from especially our older kids about being the one who left, being the one why mommy and daddy aren't together, being the one who, you know, started this divorce between mommy and daddy, because ultimately it is a untalked about pain that while you're still, you know, adjusting to this new norm, you're still adjusting to, you know, sharing your kid, although it's with their other parent. The reality is you're still sharing your kid, especially when, you know, you're the one who has done most of the parenting, like more than most, like 95% of the parenting that child's whole life. And then you go to sharing and you go to, you know, being with them every day, to sometimes not even talking to them for 2 and 3 days when they're away from you. And then even with all of that, when you get them back, they're not excited to see you. They're like, you know, I wanted to stay with this parent. And to any moms out there who are listening, even if you're a dad who, you know, had to step away or had to be the single parent, I just want to say they don't mean it. And I know that's so much easier, you know, to hear than to like put in your mind and really say, wow, they don't believe it. Trust me, when it first happened to me, I wanted to cry really, really bad, because ultimately it's hearing your child say, you know, I wish I was with the other parent. And you know they don't mean it, but it's still not easy to hear. And I remember that first time, like I cried my eyes out, because to me, it just seemed like this was going to be the new thing. And it just seemed like, you know, you're just living with me because you have to. And I don't know, you go from like raising these like babies who adore you, like these babies who can't do anything without you, these babies who you go years picking them up from daycare and they're at the door, their eyes are lighting up when you're coming through the door, like they're so excited to see you. Like you go from what is happening? Like, why am I crying? But you go from seeing them grow up, seeing their innocence, to them not wanting anything to do with you. And not them not wanting anything to do with you because they're a teenager, but them not wanting anything to do with you because in their eyes, you ruined their family. That's it. Like, you've ruined their family. And you have to understand that when they're with the other parent, whether this parent is narcissistic or not, you have to know, that naturally they probably do really miss their kid. And that's probably being said. Like, I really miss you when you're not here. Like, it's probably natural to say, like, I really miss, when we were all just a family. I get that. Like, I personally have never said that to my child because to me, there is a level of making sure I'm not gaslighting. So even during those tough times where she's, telling me, or not saying, like, she doesn't really say it. It's more so just like actions. So like, if I'm picking her up, she's crying. It's no excitement to see me at all. And then, she says something like, I just don't want my parents to be divorced, or I wish you guys weren't getting a divorce. I never say like, I wish we weren't either, because that would be, for me, lying and gaslighting to my child, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I'm glad. I'm very glad that we're going to divorce. Very glad that we're not together. Very glad that we don't live together anymore. And I have really just had to stand on faith and know that the reality is kids have to grow up. They have to grow up. And whether they grow up, believing you or not, I feel that every kid, especially from a divorced set of parents, grows up and comes to the conclusion of who was the problem. I'm not going to sit up here and say that I would hope or wish that my kids, grew up seeing who was the problem and maybe stop talking to that parent. I don't wish that at all. Like, I don't wish that at all. I hope that when my children grow up and see and realize and know and aren't, kids anymore, maybe even parents, it may take for them to be parents themselves, but whenever that happens, I hope that they're able to just do what they need to do to heal from it. And if that other parent is incapable of, maybe therapy or talking it out or hearing them out, I just pray that I'm still there to be able to not even say I told you so, but to just be there when that moment happens. Because I think that's the most important part. I think that's the most important part for all children across the board when going through, divorce, because it's really hard to explain it to a child. I personally would never explain it in the way of like, he did this, because at the end of the day, that's still their dad. Like, I don't want to be the one to, making them think that, especially just at this young age, because also you got to know that I want them to feel safe with him. Like, I want them to, when it's time to go, like, be wanting to go. Like, I love that my toddler doesn't cry when it's time to go with him. Like, that would break my heart because it just puts you in the motion of like, well, what's going on? What don't I know? And yeah, I just hope that when they do get older, like, I'm here to answer any questions that they need answered, want answered, or anything like that. And I just want moms, parents, whatever. If you're the parent who left, you're the parent who has, the most, parental primary responsibilities. I just want you to know, like, you're doing a great job. Even when they act like they're not excited to see you, they are. It's really hard to show that. And, I try to come from a compassionate place too of like, I didn't have divorced parents, but I had like friends who didn't like each other. And so, it's almost like seeing both friends who don't like each other, like in college, in the student union. And of course, I was speaking to my other friend, but it's almost this level of like, hey, like, I know she don't like you and she's sitting right at this table. And so I can only imagine when it comes to your parents. And so for me, I can honestly say, although I refuse to gaslight her, it's not happening. I do make sure that during those times where she's having these breakdowns, I am just continuously pouring into her the best way I can. I'm continuously telling her, like, God's got this under control. We've seen him do it. We've seen him do it. Like, he's not going to fail. Hopefully, while he's not failing, flesh doesn't fail. And when I say flesh, I mean, conflict, problems, reasons why, visitations aren't happening. And ultimately, I just want both of my children to know that, like, although all of this sucks, I am working triple, double, quadruple overtime to ensure that they aren't growing up hating what happened in their childhood. And I feel and I believe that Kim is doing the same thing. She's doing it the best way she knows how. And although I know, just like me, she's probably having to go pick North up from houses doing super fun video shoots, and then North's feeling like she's coming back home to like, what's this? Nothing. Like, it wasn't as fun as it was over there. And as the primary parent, you got to take the good with the bad. You have to know what you have to surrender to. You have to know what you're getting yourself into. You have to always be 5 steps ahead, because you have to know that for a while, you are not going to be the preferred parent. You're not going to be the preferred parent. And everybody will make it like you are. Everybody will make it like you won. You made out, and you did make out of the relationship. But you also made out, in my opinion, in the way of cultivating what you need to cultivate to ensure that your kids have a great upbringing. And you cannot control what goes on at the other house. You cannot control that all they do is have fun, because unfortunately, when you took on the role of primary caregiver, that entails all. You can't just go to Urban Air and, look like the fun parent. You have to discipline. You have to medicate. You have to educate. You have to bathe. You have to wake up. You have to put them to sleep. You have to take them to extracurriculars. You have to do school projects. You have to do school readings. You have to do all these things, and there's just no way that a kid is going to look at all that as fun stuff when they're with the other parent and it's like all they're doing is fun stuff. And so I also want to say, you can't control what the other parent is telling your child. You can't. Like, you can tell the courts they don't care. You tell the attorneys they don't care. They'll take a $7,000 retainer from you, tell you that they care, but they don't care. All you can do is cultivate a relationship with your child to ensure your child that this is not what it is, and that you understand what is being said, you understand why it's being said, but just keeping that open line of not only communication but empathy and compassion for your child, because it's way more than they're letting you know it is to how it's affecting them. And I just always try to think about that. As mad as y'all, I'd be mad. But yeah, I really do try to just keep that at the forefront, because that's all that matters. And so yeah, I hope this made sense. If you guys like topics like this, let me know. Like, I think, topics, especially around divorce right now, are just they just hit so close to home to me. So I would love to talk about more. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up. Please make sure you follow me at all my platforms, Instagram, Just Healing Podcast, as well as TikTok, as well as Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Those are all Just Healing Podcasts. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.